Okay, as I'm going to call the meeting to order. A couple, again, a few opening comments like we did before. The emergency exits are not necessarily the exits through which you entered the building. So make sure you're aware of where the emergency exits are in case we have to leave in a hurry. Everybody can hear me, I assume? I'm pretty loud down here, so if you guys in the cheap seats can hear me, that's great. There's only water allowed in the room, no coffee, no food. I have a list of the tellers for this evening. If the tellers can rise so you know who's going to be counting you, I'd appreciate it. Section A is Anne Marie Sinnott. Section B is Jeb Deloche. Section C is Anne Marie Sacchetti. Section D is Kevin Robinson. And Section E is Barbara Carney. And I have a list of out-of-town officials, employees of the town who would like to remain on the floor with their board members. I'm going to read the list, and we're just going to vote to make sure we allow them to stay on the floor. Carol Hamilton, Michael LaSelva, Robert Matthew Forte, Cynthia Marcoux, Jenna Gillis, Sean Strobel, Paul Scheil, I may be saying that wrong, Andrew Stewart, and those are the out-of-towners that want to be staying on the floor. All those in favor of allowing them to remain on the floor, please raise your hand. All opposed, I declare that they pass. Oh, and I'm sorry, and Karen Paulette from the Veterans Agency. Wave to everybody, Karen, thank you. Before we get in the meeting, I was asked by David Carrier for a moment to talk about the World War II merchant mariners, and I called David up to the microphone now to give a little brief presentation. And Karen Paulette's there as well. Can we turn on the mic down front, please?
Good evening. My name is Karen Paulette. I am the director of Marshfield Veterans Services. I've been in this job for 11 years, and Dave Carey has asked me to say a couple words. There is a bill in the Senate right now. It is an act to recognize merchant marines for their service. And I'm going to simply explain it to you pretty quickly. You can Google it online. It is coming to an end, so if you decide to support it, there is a timeline and a deadline that's coming up, I think, Monday. What they're looking to do is recognize, and this is within the state, this is not anything federal, this is from Massachusetts. They're looking to recognize June 12th as Merchant Marine Day, as that is their birthday from 1775. They're looking for, if there's a cemetery that is displaying military flags of branches of service to include the Merchant Marines. They are looking for a medal of service for those Merchant Marines that served during wartime. There was about 250,000 Merchant Marines that were called to work during the war, World War II, to support the military, to support the U.S. Navy. They were considered an auxiliary. And they did supply runs, they did personnel runs, and they served as a supplement to our military during war in foreign countries. So that is really where the bill is honed in on. And there is certain, to get that medal, there's going to be a commission of 3 people. There is a secretary of the Veterans Affairs. There is the commandant of the military academy and a merchant mariner, all reviewing that person's eligibility for that medal. So there is a lot of criteria to it, and it will be an honor to receive it. But we're looking to recognize those civilian merchant mariners who supplemented our military and helped during that World War II. And I'm going to have Dave talk a little bit more personally, since he's really been the driving force on this. I'm just kind of a little tack on to kind of get that word out there for you. And please feel free to look it up and get some information on that. Thank you.
Thank you. David Carrier, 34 Outlook Road. I'm a graduate of Massachusetts Maritime Academy, class of 1968, and part of my motivation about this is the fact that the privilege of being taught by a number of those merchant mariners who were just both merchant marine veterans and a number of them merchant marine veterans and Navy veterans during World War II. What most people don't realize is that, the merchant marine, when it served in World War II, was required to not yield the ship to any surface German vessel as long as the armed guard could still fight and the ship could still be maneuvered. The most notable of that is the SS Stephen Hopkins, captained by a gentleman named Paul Buck, who was from Merrimack Port, Massachusetts. The SS Stephen Hopkins ran into two German vessels, one of which was the German Steer, which was an auxiliary cruiser with 6 5.9 cannons, full military type aiming equipment and stuff like that. The Hopkins fought it hard enough that they actually damaged the Steer sufficiently that it sunk. The Hopkins, of course, itself was sunk as well. The last person to man the gun was a young man named O'Hara, who was a U.S. Merchant Marine Academy cadet at the time in the engine room, and he was the last one to man the gun, and he struck the Steer 4 times by himself, firing the last 4 rounds that were available. The crew, only 30 people survived, and they managed to do about 30 days in a lifeboat going to Brazil. Okay. That is kind of not atypical of the Merchant Marine. Okay. I want to call your attention to 2 distinguished graduates from Massachusetts Maritime Academy that served in World War II. The first is Thomas E. Burke. He was a captain sailing for United Fruit. His vessel was on the North Atlantic runs as well as out into the Pacific. He was torpedoed twice and managed to survive, probably because he was on a reefer cargo ship, which means there wasn't anything too explosive, at least below decks. The other is a gentleman named George Duffy. Both of these gentlemen have passed away. George Duffy was on the SS American Leader. That vessel was caught by the Michelle, which was a German surface raider, and I believe that was the same vessel which actually managed to sink an Australian cruiser. Okay. The crew of 58, 47 were rescued. Of the 47 that were rescued, they actually ended up being transferred over to Java to the Japanese, and they ended up being in prison with the Japanese, working on all of those railroads in Southeast Asia. Of the 47 that were turned over, 28 returned home. George Duffy was one of those gentlemen, and he immediately went back to sea at the end of the war. Okay, this is kind of the character of the Merchant Marine. They have always been there to bring the bullets and the beans, okay, and the bottom line is that flag says in peace and war, and that's true. This particular bill, Senate 2688, the actual person pushing all of this is a gentleman named Roger McCaldy, who was a 1966 graduate of Maine Maritime Academy, and he has been working through Senator Bruce Tarr on the North Shore, who authored this to start with. And the hearing is going to be a public hearing on Monday, April 29, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. The only thing that can be submitted is written testimony, and I have an email address that you can go to, and some other data on these sheets that I will be happy to share with anybody who wants it, either by emailing it to you. If you give me your email, I'll give you mine, if you prefer. And I will also, give you a gist of what I have written, which is kind of what I just read to you from here. And I would like to solicit the support. The one thing I want to mention, there is already existing medals by the United States Maritime Administration for the World War II veterans, for those that manned merchant ships in the Korean War and also the Vietnam War. And it's just a simple medal. It's nothing fancy. And it's not a military veterans medal. Massachusetts medal that they're proposing will be much the same. It is going to be a state recognition of civilian service, not a military recognition. But when the flags are displayed right now under state law, you're talking about the Air Force, the Army, the Navy, the Marines, the Space Command, and the Coast Guard. To the best of my knowledge, the Space Command has yet to perform any wartime duties. So if anybody is interested, you can feel free to reach to me tonight. And the written information has to be submitted by Monday, before 5 p.m. I'll take any questions if you have them. I'm sorry? My email address is this: Carrier, CARRIEREDE, at yahoo.com. Don't forget the E on the end. It's not like air conditioner. There's an E on the end of Carrier.
You're sitting over there, so
Yep.
if anybody has a question for David during the evening, he'll be sitting over in that area.
I'll be happy to talk to anybody individually. You know, one thing I think I should add, and that is there is a falsehood out there that the merchant marines of World War II were making big money. My father had been blinded in one eye in 1940 while he was working at the Four River Shipyard. You know, I think you probably, most of the older folks here know, Franklin Roosevelt wanted a two-ocean navy, and that was part of what was going on at the time. So he tried to enlist, but he couldn't do it with one blind eye, and he ended up working at the Four River Yard, and then when Hingham really rolled up, he went over there to work. He made more money than any of the merchant mariners of World War II that I have talked to, because he was working basically 7 days a week, no less than 10 hours a day, for the entire duration of the war, and he wasn't getting shot at. Now, out of the merchant mariners, 1 out of every 26 was a fatality. And the other thing is, roughly a quarter of those 1 out of 26 all occurred on our East Coast. Oops, I'm sorry. My book, yep, sorry. Okay, and that happened mostly between, you know, after December 7th and June of 42, because at that time we weren't blacking out, we weren't providing convoy or any other escort. The rest then occurred during 42 in the later years through to 45, carrying through the North Atlantic and out through the Pacific. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, David. Okay, so we're renewing our meeting from Tuesday night. Thank you all for coming back again. We're going to start with Article 12, which is where we left off. We had Article 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16 as part of the consent agenda. So I'm going to take them in order. Once we deal with those articles, there are 2 other articles left. There are Articles 18 and 19, which are 2 citizen petition articles. So we'll start with Article 12. The Planning Board moves Article 12 is set forth in the April 22nd, 2024 Annual Town Meeting warrant. And this is submitted by the Planning Board. It's going to be a 2/3 vote. Ms. Horn.
Karen Horn, 36 Phillips Farm Road. I'm the Assistant Town Planner as well as the Housing Coordinator. In Article 12, we are just proposing 2 new definitions. DHCD has been, the Department of Housing and Community Development has changed its name to the Executive Office of Housing and Living Communities. So we are adding a new EOHLC definition, as well as we are adding a new definition for the newly formed Marshfield Affordable Housing Trust.
Thank you. The Advisory Board.
Tom Scollins, Advisory Board. The board unanimously supports this article.
Town Council reminded me that we need the report from you on the public hearing on that article.
Mr. Guimond gave you the report on Tuesday for all of the articles, but the Planning Board voted 5-0 in support of
Okay.
all of these changes tonight.
Okay. So there is the presentation on the article. I know Mr. Guimond, if anybody's unsure, is on vacation today, which is why Ms. Horn from the Planning Board is subbing in for her. So discussion from the floor.
Hi, good evening. Joe, hello? Hi, hello?
Hang on
Is it
just a second.
working? Hi, Joe
There you go.
Pasevich, there we go. Joe Pasevich, Wilson Road. Yeah, I recognize that all this is doing is adding 2 terms, and they're in the warrant. I think one is, as Ms. Horn pointed out, it's changing DHCD to EOHLC. and also, what was the other one? Again, I forgot.
Adding the housing trust
Housing
as
trust
the
fund.
definition.
So, yeah, it's just two terms, so I've got no problem with that.
Okay. Seeing no further discussion, this is a two-thirds vote. All in favor of Article 12, please raise your hand. All opposed? I declare that Article 12 passes by two-thirds. Okay, we're on to Article 13. The Planning Board moves Article 13 is set forth in the April 22nd, 2024 annual town meeting warrant submitted by the Planning Board, and this will be a two-thirds vote again.
The next 13, 14, 15, and 16 all reference the same thing. So in those 4 sections of the bylaw, we are replacing references to DHCD with EOHLC. We are replacing reference to the housing partnership with the housing trust. And we are replacing where the fee in lieu of payments for when affordable units are not built on site. We are replacing where the fee currently was being held by the housing authority for the housing partnership since the formation of the trust. We are changing that reference so it'll now be held by the newly formed housing trust fund. We are not changing any other references or responsibilities for the housing authority or changing any other references that we have to that. And for reference, I did meet with Mr. Pasovich yesterday for 45 minutes, and hopefully we went through his questions is to the best of my ability, anyway, so.
Do we need the report again? Okay. So, Planning Board, or Advisory Board, rather?
Thank you. Tom Scollins, Advisory Board. The board unanimously supports this article as well as 14, 15, and 16.
Thanks for saving us some time. Discussion from the floor.
Sean Kelly, 33 Chandler Drive. I just had a question regarding on page 15, subsection 4, subsection C, references having an annual audit. That starts, sections being deleted. Just curious, the funds will still be subject to audit or publicly accountable?
Yes, but that's in the housing trust bylaw. So there will be accounting done on the housing trust fund, but it's just not in this section. It's in the bylaw that it was adopted last year.
So the information itself will still be available?
Yes.
Thank you.
Joe Pasevich, Wilson Road. Yeah, I'd first like to point out that there is more to the change than just funneling money to a certain destination. The Housing Authority was tasked, and I supported these bylaws, all 4 of these bylaws when they were first passed. The Housing Authority was tasked with keeping custody of money, reporting on their usage, and doing audits, and working with the housing partnership on how they're going to get used. Okay, the problem there was that it was a good law. These are good existing bylaws which should be allowed to remain in place unmolested. The problem has been the Housing Authority has not been doing the audits and doing their accountability as they should be. And one of the reasons why it was great to have the Housing Authority, and it's good to have the Housing Authority now involved, is because they are an elected body and they're more accountable to the public. So you established a housing trust fund last year, okay? It's not going to go anywhere unless town meeting votes to dismantle it at any time. You have sources of money coming in. You can work with the Housing Authority, which is an elected body that helps to reflect the will of the voters. So to take the Housing Authority out of this process completely is a huge mistake, a massive mistake. But we were told when the Housing Trust Fund was proposed that there would be, we didn't know what would happen to the Housing Partnership, and there was no mention of the Housing Authority and what its role was going to be. In the meantime, the funds that were being held in the trust of the Housing Authority were being taken away behind the scenes before this was passed. So the hundreds of thousands of dollars that we were holding in trust were transferred out into a brand new account, and there was no mention of it, there was no discussion of it, it never came up before the Housing Authority, even though people claimed it had. That's not true. And it certainly hasn't come up since I've been on the Housing Authority.
Okay,
So this article needs to be defeated, and I will sit down with the planning board and the Housing Trust Fund, and we can all get along.
okay, you're out of time. Did you want to?
Can I address that?
Go ahead.
Oh, didn't Karen want to speak?
Yeah.
Pardon me?
Can I
Karen
address
wanted to speak.
Joe's comments?
Sure. I'm sorry. I didn't see you over there.
The money that was being held by the Housing Authority could only be expended by approval by the Housing Partnership. The Housing Authority did not have a say in any of the use of that money. It was solely because we didn't have a trust that they were willing to hold that money. The Council for Housing Authority said it was not appropriate for that agency to be holding the town's money, which is why once the trust was adopted, the Housing Partnership voted to move that money into the new trust fund. It wasn't something that the Housing Authority needed to vote for or had the authority to vote for.
Point of order, because it's an important information.
Very quickly, yes.
Yeah, well, but the Housing Authority signed the checks, okay? So we ultimately had a determination if that money was going to be released.
Okay, that's it.
Diane Jordan, Bancroft Street. So two things. Curious about the grant that the Housing Authority got. It was a 5-year grant, so if they're kind of out of the loop with regard to money and so forth, like what happens to that grant?
Ms. Horn?
That's different money altogether. That's Housing Authority money. We are only talking about money for fee in lieu of units that were approved through a planning board special permit that was given just to hold until it was used by the Housing Partnership, now the Housing Trust. For example, $600,000 of that money went towards the Veterans Building. And so that's different than grants the Housing Authority gets or their operating budget or money they get from the state. This is only this one pocket of money that we're talking about.
Okay, one other comment. So in the Housing Trust bylaws, they're not required to, the board, I guess, or committee, I'm not sure which it is, but they're not required to acknowledge and identify and vote on money they receive, which could be in the millions with the $450,000 in fee, in lieu of fee, or in fee, whatever it's called. So I'm concerned about that because the select board has to identify and vote on all money they receive, basically. And I think, especially with the MBTA communities, if that passes, there's going to be millions of dollars coming through there, and they're not going to, the board members aren't going to be acknowledging and voting on it. I think that puts them at risk, and the organization at risk, and the town at risk, to not have those monies go on record with a
Ms.
vote.
Horn?
The Housing Trust is a town-appointed body that has open meeting laws and votes that it needs to take, as well as the fiduciary responsibility of the trust. So I don't know where you're getting that they can do all this part in secret. And it's not millions of dollars that would be funneled in from the MBTA communities that you defeated at town meeting anyway. It would be whatever people chose to do as a fee in lieu of. So it's not a never-ending supply of money from that.
Well, I didn't defeat it, but it's in the bylaws that they're not voting on money they receive. I don't understand why they're not voting on money that comes in.
They're not voting on money that they've received because
Right.
the fee in lieu of payments are approved through the special permit from the planning board and then would be paid to that fund. So the vote is from the planning board
So the planning board votes on it.
to accept fee in lieu of payments, yes.
Okay. Okay, that answers my question.
Okay. Mr. Richardson?
Gary Richardson, 115 Cross Street. I've been a member of the Housing Authority for about 11 years, and I know a previous speaker just mentioned that there's been no audits. We produce financial statements by an accountant on a monthly basis. Those statements are given to the board. I know recently there was a change and we didn't get statements for about, I'm going to say 2 to 3 months. However, in the past 10 to 11 years, we were given financial statements every month. And those financial statements indicated how many dollars were sitting over at the Housing Authority that were payments in lieu of. So there was a fair accounting accomplished on a monthly basis and an annual basis.
Thank you.
Mr. Moderator, extremely important point of order. The previous speaker has not mentioned that he has also just been appointed to the board of the Housing Trust Fund, number one. And number two, I had to do a public records request to get those in lieu of fund payment accounts. And I was stonewalled, but I did eventually get them, so that's not true.
You only get to speak once in an article, and I'll give you some latitude on that, but you don't get to rebut every time somebody speaks. I think this is our last speaker.
Donald Clark, T-Rock Gardens. I've attended each of the board meetings. I'm a resident at T-Rock Gardens since I've been at T-Rock Gardens. It has been explained in board meetings, including board meetings that Mr. Pesovich was at, that the in fee of lieu payments were never meant for the Marshfield Housing Authority to spend. It was being held until a suitable place could be found. So I definitely support this article moving forward. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you. Okay, seeing no further discussion, I will go to a vote. Again, I will remind everybody it's a 2/3 vote. So all in favor of Article 13, please raise your hand. All opposed? That's enough for a standing vote. On a 2/3 one, unless it's really clear, I'm going to go to a standing vote. And once again, at least we get to see how many people are here. So all those in favor of Article 13, please rise. Everybody ready? Section A, 14. Section B, 26. Section C, 15. 16, 16. Section D, 16. Section E, 4. And the front. Reese? 15. Okay. All those, you need to make sure the woman that's walking in, if you can get to a seat so you can vote. So all those opposed to Article 13, please rise. Just curious. You all set? Section A, 4. Section B, 7. Section C, 2. Section D, 29. Section E. 18. Front. 0. I declare that the article fails. Okay, we're on to Article 14. The Planning Board moves that Article 14 is set forth in the April 22nd, 2024 Annual Town Meeting warrant. It's moved by the Planning Board, and it's 2/3 majority, once again, as they all will. Ms. Horn. Pardon me? It's one person talk. We just voted Article 13 down. We're on to Article 14. That make sense? Okay. I'll read it again. The Planning Board moves Article 14 is set forth in the April 22nd, 2024 Annual Town Meeting warrant. Ms. Horn.
Article 14 is for the Planned Mixed-Use Development Bylaw and for all the same topic we just discussed at the last one.
Okay. Advisory Board.
He already.
Oh, yeah. Advisory Board already said. I forgot that he had said that. Discussion from the floor.
Hi, Joe Pasevich, Wilson Road. Again, I really want the Housing Trust Fund. They do have sources of funds. I hope they succeed. But one thing you have to remember is the Housing Trust Fund also can create housing. It can build housing. They can do new developments. They can do anything. Right now, we're on the cusp of reaching safe harbor status. In other words, if we set aside a little more land and get a few more units of affordable housing as defined by state law, we will have safe harbor status and we'll be free from 40Bs. And the land area exemption, which Ms. Horn or Mr. Stewart could probably explain to you, means, and Mr. Guimond explained the other night, is permanent, okay? That doesn't go away with the change of population or anything like that. So we're on the cusp, and as a Housing Authority Commissioner, my main objective is to seek more conversions, to increase our subsidized housing inventory, and to provide more places for people to live that need it. So I absolutely want to sit down with the Planning Board and the Housing Trust Fund, work out some differences, and also resolve the issue of how it's possible to have board members on the Housing Authority and on the Housing Trust Fund. To me, that's a potential conflict, so I urge a no vote on this also. Let us resolve the differences and come back in the fall with a new set of bylaw changes. Thank you.
Okay. Left microphone.
Cody Rowland, 45 Whitford Circle. I am on the Housing Trust Fund, the Housing Trust, in the Housing Partnership for, 7 years before it was converted over to that. I think our goal is the same. Our whole goal within the trust, and the only reason we needed the trust was to form a vehicle to hold the money. I know Mr. Pasevich for this whole time has been very upset that the Housing Authority is not overseeing the money that the trust is holding. We're not holding millions and millions of dollars, and we can do development, and we can do, I guess, a lot of different things, but we all want the same thing for this community. We want housing that's affordable for our people. We're not talking about building projects, or I don't even really know what the concern really is, other than the fact that we are doing our best to figure out ways that work within our community to build homes that people can afford, however we can manage to do that. If the housing costs the way they are right now, it's next to impossible, but we're doing our best to explore ways to do that. And we're open to talking to whomever. We have open meetings. Anybody can come and chat with us and talk about what they want to do. But it just seems, I don't know all the legalities of this, but to be honest, just to argue about the verbiage of how the article is written when everything's covered in the trust already seems kind of silly. But I just want to reassure our neighbors that we're not out to build projects all over Marshfield. We have zero interest in doing that. We just want to make this community as good as we can, and we're at places where our kids can live as well. That's all.
Okay. Seeing no further discussion, I'm going to go to a vote. Do you want to come down? Pardon? Oh, I'm sorry, Karen. I look out there, I don't look in here.
I just wanted to address a point that Mr. Pasovich made. Yes, the Housing Authority can acquire units, buy units, build new units on their own, but they cannot use this money on their own. They cannot use this fee in lieu of money. If we don't change this, it's just left at the partnership needs to decide how to use that, and that committee was disbanded and formed now to the trust. So I don't know what will happen to any future payments for the fee in lieu of, because it's not the Housing Authority that can spend it.
Okay.
Thank you. My name is Cecilia Delgadillo, Genevieve Lane. I am on the Marshfield Housing Authority, and I also serve on the trust. I echo what Cody said. Basically, we're Marshfield residents that give our time and thought to the betterment of Marshfield. We're not out to do any wild things or construction or, big things. In fact, I could speak for myself and Kerry Richardson, who also serves on the board. We deal with Habitat for Humanity, and that is our big, it's in our hearts, and we've been dealing with them for over a decade. I feel that this is all misunderstood, quite frankly. I commend the people that are questioning, because it's important to question things, and I have no problem with that. Joe Pesovich has been at our meetings many, many times at the Housing Trust, and we've answered every single question he's asked. So we're really not hiding anything. We don't have any ulterior motives. We're just here as regular Marshfield residents that love this town to do what's best for this town. Whether you agree or not, that's just what I have to say. So, and we're willing to talk to anybody, and we always have.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. You want to speak?
Robert Galvin, Town Council. Just for the town meeting to understand, the Marshfield Housing Authority has its own council because it's a quasi-local, quasi-state agency. Their council and their auditors have told the town that they can't hold our money anymore. And that's the reason why these changes are being requested by the planning board. It's not any more complicated than that. Their independent counsel, their auditors say that they can't hold the money. So we need to place this money with a town entity that has the authority to hold this money and approve its expenditure. And that's as simple as I can explain it to you all.
Hi, Katie Gensheimer, 16 Tupelo Road. Just a question. The last speaker mentioned Habitat for Humanity. Does this money go towards homes through Habitat for Humanity? And how many homes do we have in Marshfield that have been built under that program?
Do you know, Karen?
I don't know the number. Do you know the number?
I'm only aware of one. That's why I ask.
Oh, there's more than one Habitat
maybe
house in Marshfield.
4, but this, traditionally for Habitat houses, the town gives Habitat parcels or sells it to for like $1 or something that they then build a house on. We have not given Habitat for Humanity money. That's not something.
So this money.
Carrie, if you just wait, Kerry Richardson is right behind you, and he's got an answer.
Kerry Richardson, 115 Cross Street, former president of the board of South Shore Habitat for Humanity. We have built 4 homes here in Marshfield. One of those homes, there was CPC funding used for one of those homes in Marshfield. And that was to purchase the property for about $10,000. We are not, through the trust, that hasn't even come up. We've basically invited South Shore Habitat for Humanity to a meeting to discuss what they could do in the future. They would like to build again in Marshfield. But right now, there's no land that they've found to build in Marshfield, so we don't see anything on the horizon right now. Does that answer your questions?
So so the fact that we only have 4 homes through Habitat for Humanity, which build single-family homes at an affordable rate, this money can't be designated to assist in identifying more land for Habitat for Humanity homes? Because what I'm reading in here is all about developments. That's why, I get concerned about developments.
So, in answer to your question, the Affordable Housing Trust could absolutely approve giving money to Habitat for Humanity to assist in the development of a single-family home or a duplex or whatever they felt was appropriate. And that's how, one of the tools they have within the scope of their authority to develop and create affordable housing. So absolutely, they could do that.
With this,
Positively. This is what they were created to do, to develop and create and maintain affordable housing. And that's one of the ways they could do it, by providing funds to Habitat for Humanity if they were able to find a suitable location to construct a single-family house.
so they could identify an MBTA community and they can identify a 40B on Ferry Street, but you're saying that they can't identify any land for single-family homes through Habitat, through this money?
You're beyond the scope of the article, because we're not talking about what can be identified or not identified by Habitat. That would be you'd get different people in that would know that. But I was involved a little bit, just volunteering on a couple of the habitats, and typically it took quite a bit of work to get a parcel of property on which Habitat could build a home that could be affordable. So I don't think obviously there hasn't been one in years, correct, Carrie? Yeah, I don't think there's been any Habitat houses in years in town.
The one that I'm most familiar with was on Acorn, and that's got to be there for 10 years now.
Yeah, so it just, again, that's beyond the scope of the article discussing Habitat housing. You can talk about where the money's going, but where it's actually being used is not something that we can talk about this evening.
Just last point, there was a comment that was made about how this money would just sit if it wasn't spent in this way. So why not do some networking, reach out to people at Habitat, and get some building of single-family homes that are affordable for
Again,
families
it's
here?
beyond the scope of this article for what we're discussing. Seeing no further people at the microphone, I'll go for a vote. Again, this is a 2/3 vote. All those in favor of Article 14, please raise your hand. All those opposed? I declare that that fails. Article 15, the Planning Board moves Article 15 is set forth in the April 22nd, 2024 annual town meeting warrants. You can, it won't make a difference. I could see behind you. It was pretty clear. It's a 2/3 vote. If this was a majority vote, it might have been close. Well, Article 15. The Planning Board moves Article 15 is set forth in the April 22nd, 2022, April 22nd, 2024 annual town meeting warrant. Sorry, got distracted. It's by the Planning Board again. Ms. Horn.
Yes, this is for the section of the bylaw for inclusionary zoning, for all the same
Okay.
discussion.
And we've got the yes from the advisory board, so we go to discussion from the floor.
Joe Pasevich, Wilson Road, Housing Commissioner. Again, I'm not against the Housing Trust Fund existing, okay? I want them to work with an elected body reflecting the will and the input from the residents. Housing Trust Fund is an appointed body. Now, as far as the monies that are being held by the Housing Authority, it doesn't sit there. Hundreds of thousands of dollars have been coming into it over the years, and hundreds of thousands of dollars have been going out. So it's being used. The problem we have is that the housing partnership, we asked last year before the housing trust fund was established by spring town meeting, and I had gone to the hearings prior to that, what's going to happen to the housing partnership? We have a longtime housing partnership member here in the audience. They did a lot of work. Jack Mather was a great guy, rest his soul. He worked slowly and deliberately to create a single-family housing for people. That was the strategy that I liked, and so the money was getting used. It was actually being used, and as you know, Mr. Moderator, you were involved in some projects involving the money, so that money was never sitting there and going to waste. There was a problem with the counting of it and auditing of it, and that needs to be improved, not discarded and thrown out the window. All right? You've got somebody on the Housing Authority now who cares about these things, and that found out that all the funds that we did have were taken out without my knowledge and put into a new account, and that was illegal. So what these articles are now trying to do is make what was done illegally legal. No, let's not do that. Let's all get together and sit down and have a conference on how to do this right. Thank you.
Jim?
Left
Vote no.
microphone, please. Come on. Left microphone. Oh, Karen, I'm sorry. Thank you.
Yes, the money has been spent. As I said before, $600,000 went towards the building of the Veterans House. And that was by the approval of the Housing Partnership, not by the approval of the Housing Authority. And what I said, if there are any new fee in lieu of payments, what I was saying was the way the bylaw is written now, there's nobody left who can issue approval to spend those money. If it stays listed as it is now, which says it goes to the Housing Authority with the approval of the Housing Partnership, which doesn't exist.
Point of order, Mr. Moderator. The Housing Partnership still exists. It's on paper. It's in the law. They're telling you it doesn't exist, but technically, by law, it still exists.
Okay. Again, you don't get, it's not a rebuttal thing.
Prior speaker indicated that the housing authority giving the money back, the town's money back to the town was illegal. It was not illegal. Their council, not our council, said they couldn't hold the money. They gave it back to us. Their auditors say they couldn't keep our money. They gave it back to us. That's not illegal.
Cody Rowland, 45 Whitford Circle. And I just also wanted to add to this. I agree with Joe. Our goal within the Housing Trust is to provide affordable housing or to make opportunities available for affordable housing. And a lot of the money prior to where we are now was, we haven't discussed yet, the MHOT program that we had, where the town granted people who qualified for affordable housing, which in this case is a family of four can make $130,000 a year and qualify for affordable housing. And the town would provide them a grant to go and buy a property. They would give them the partnership could give them $120,000 to add toward their down payment of the property to make it more affordable. And then they would add a deed restriction on the property that would make it affordable in perpetuity. So anytime those people wanted to sell the house, they would have to sell it to someone who qualified for an affordable home as well. They couldn't sell it at market rate and make a bonus on, because they got $120,000 from the town. That has to stay within the MHOT program. And Karen, I can't remember how many houses there are.
There's 27 houses, but that money was CPC money.
Okay, well, but it flowed through the housing
partners,
partnership.
yes.
That was part of the money we had to distribute. And we received the same type of money. We're not getting millions of dollars that we can put in giant developments. And even if we did, there's no land really necessarily to do it, but our goal is home ownership with affordable housing. So however we can figure out ways to do that, we've done nothing for quite some time because it's a difficult thing to figure out, and there's not, the homes are just so, we can't even afford to give anybody $120,000. It won't make them affordable anymore. So it's a difficult situation to be in that we're trying to figure out, and then just having fights about where the money's coming from is not helping.
Right microphone.
Sean Kelly, 33 Chandler Drive. Under Section G, provision for fees in lieu of construction for affordable units. Period, lowering our reimbursement rate from 65% to 40%.
I didn't understand your question.
It's listed, it strikes out 65% and inserts 40% for the average asking price being asked for market rate units in the applicable developments.
And you want to know the reason?
Yes.
Ms. Horn?
That's to be it's 40% in all of the others. And so this was to correct the typo that this said 65.
All right, thank you.
Eric Kelly, Peterson Path. Who's the attorney that we're talking about for the Housing Authority? Is there a name?
This information came to the town through the executive director of the Marshfield Housing Authority, James Marathis.
So you haven't heard from the attorney, supposedly?
We don't deal directly with them. The executive director...
But you didn't say that. You said from the attorney. So now you're saying it's the executive director.
The executive director has indicated to us that their attorneys and their auditors have told the Housing Authority that they can't hold our money anymore.
So we don't have an actual document or anything from an attorney saying that?
No, but we could
All right,
probably
there you
call
go.
Mr.
Thank you for that answer.
Thank you. We can ask Mr. Marathis who their counsel is.
Okay, nobody else at microphones. I'm going to go to a vote. Again, it's a 2/3 vote. All in favor of Article 15, please raise your hand. All opposed? I declare that Article 15 fails. Fails. We are on to number 16. And the Planning Board moves Article 16 as set forth in the April 22nd, 2024 annual town meeting warrants. Submitted by the Planning Board, again in 2/3 vote. Ms. Horn.
This is the article for mixed use in the B1 for the same reasons.
Okay. Advisory Board has approved it. Go ahead.
Joe Pasevich, Wilson Road. Yeah, I urge a no vote on this, and we can get back to work and bring back improvements in the fall. Thank you.
Further discussion? Seeing none, I'll go to a vote. All those in favor of Article 16, again, 2/3 vote, please raise your hand. All those opposed? Again, that one fails. So we are left with Articles 18 and 19, and just for the sake of expediency, I'm going to forego the lottery, and I'm just going to take them in order. So Article 18 is a citizen's petition article from Sarah Crowley. She moves Article 18 is set forth in the April 22nd, 2024 annual town meeting warrant. So Sarah, if you can come down.
Good evening. I'm Sarah Crowley, 437 Ocean Street, and this is Paul Sheely from 42nd Brew Co., Summer Street in Kingston. I'm going to quickly give an overview of the petition, and then if town meeting allows, turn it over to Paul, should you have any questions for him. The main reason for this article is to allow 42nd Brew Co., a small microbrewery located in Kingston, to lease space in the shops at Brant Rock, located at 25 Dyke Road, directly across the street from the Brant Rock Market. The reason that I am the petitioner of this article rather than Paul is because my family owns the multi-tenant building that the brewery would like to open in. 42nd Brew Co. is a microbrewery that brews their own small batches of craft beer on their premises in Kingston, and they would do the same in Brant Rock should they be allowed to do so. Currently, however, the Brant Rock Overlay District prohibits microbreweries. It is my opinion that changing the overlay district to permit their microbrewery in Brant Rock will not only bring more vibrance to the entryway of Brant Rock, but would also be very beneficial to the local businesses and to our small community in Brant Rock. I think you can see, if asked from Paul, their presence in Kingston speaks to this. They partner with local restaurants, and they support many local businesses and causes. I think many of you know and were there, the brewery actually just had a pop-up in Brant Rock in front of Sand and Water over St. Patrick's Day. Many of our neighbors were able to meet the owners that day. They saw firsthand the type of business that they run, and they expressed excitement at the brewery's possible permanent location in Brant Rock. Neighbors loved that there would be a small neighborhood brewery within walking distance to their homes. For those reasons, it is my belief that a microbrewery will fit right into Brant Rock. I hope that you all vote yes to change the overlay district to permit microbreweries into Brant Rock and allow this small business to open. Thank you. Mr. Moderator, Paul Shealy is available for questions specific to his microbrewery, should town meeting allow.
Okay, thank you. Advisory Board.
The board voted unanimously to recommend approval of this article.
Okay, thank you.
I should note that, I was going to say, in support of the petition, the advisory board received 2 letters of support from community groups, the Kingston Business Association and the Plymouth Area Chamber of Commerce, both of whom praised 42nd Brewery and their commitment to the Kingston community. As the petitioner described, the petition seeks to amend the bylaws to permit...
I think, Mr. Ford, we just need an approval, and I think we're already got what's put up there, so thank you. Go to the floor.
John Kramer, 22 Wayfield Road. I support this article. We have one microbrewery in the Enterprise Drive. If we put another one in, we'll have some competition and we'll have some jobs, and it'll be good for everybody. And we could put something there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Pam Keith, Smoke Hill Ridge. I just wanted to know the planning board takes a vote on these. The planning board vote.
Ms. Horn.
Karen Horn, Assistant Town Planner. Yes, the planning board took a vote on it Monday night, and the vote was 4-0 in favor of the article.
Sorry. Did the planning board hold a public hearing? Yes. You did. Okay, thanks. I was just wondering.
Hi, Michelle Callahan, Tower Ave.
Could you speak into the microphone a little bit? I can't quite hear you.
Michelle Callahan, Tower Ave. I'm just wondering if on page 38, the Article 18, it says number 22, microbrewery. Is that going to be 22 for Marshfield, but you're 42 in Kingston? Or is this a typo?
They're 42 Brew Co.
It's the category number.
So
According for town council says it's the category number.
So 22 is correct.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
Carol McCory, 311 Pine Street. I just have a question about changing the zoning in one area of town. Is it for one plot of land, or is it for the whole region? And I just want to hear from someone in planning about the implications for the broader region of Brant Rock.
She's right behind you.
Hi, this is adding a use to the district of the Brant Rock District. So if anyone's familiar with the zoning bylaw, there's a whole table of use that says what types of businesses are allowed where in town. And so microbreweries right now are only allowed in the industrial district. This would allow them in the Brant Rock District by right without a special permit.
Thank you.
So.
Good evening, Larry Keene, 195 Cornhill Lane. I'm glad that Sarah brought up that she is a lifelong resident of Marshfield. She graduated from Marshfield High School. Her family has owned this property for years. Her father is a retired Marshfield police officer. This property is the gateway to Marshfield, Brant Rock section, and the renovation there would be bring a huge impact to the community. And this is such a minor change in the zoning law that, you know, all the zoning changes we've been talking about throughout the last 3 nights, this is very minor and should be approved.
Okay, thank you. All right, this is a majority vote. There's nobody else at the mic, so all in favor. Is it 2/3? Oh, I'm sorry, yes, that's because it's a zoning change. All those in favor of Article 18, it's a two-thirds vote. Please raise your hand. All opposed? I declare that that passes by two-thirds. We're on to Article 19. Patricia Kelly moves Article 19 is set forth in the April 22nd, 2024 annual town meeting warrant. Article 19. Patricia Kelly moves Article 19 is set forth in the April 22nd, 2024 annual town meeting warrant. Whenever you're ready.
Sorry.
No,
I'm
no,
just
take your time.
pulling up my notes.
I'm not rushing you, just whenever you're ready.
Thank you so much. Good evening. Public comment is a time when town residents can bring matters of public interest before the Board of Selectmen that may or may not be on the official agenda. Public comments can help town leaders better understand the resistance or acceptance of an issue. It allows people with lived experience to share their views on certain matters. A couple of months ago, I called the Selectman's office and asked if public comments were allowed. I was told that they are not permitted. This prompted me to submit a proposal to encourage the board to consider allowing public comment at their meetings and adding it to their official agenda. The open meeting law does not require public comment during meetings. However, it is encouraged to allow for as much public participation as time and circumstances permit. The chair of the select board has discretion to decide whether or not public comment is allowed, set limitations that could include time limits for each person speaking, and is responsible for maintaining order. Public comments are allowed in the towns of Hingham, Cohasset, Linfield, Pembroke, Canton, Needham, and Shrewsbury, to name a handful. These towns recognize the importance of public comment, allowing the residents to bring matters forward that are of concern to them, to be heard by all, and for consideration by the select board. This is not a time of questions and answers. It is solely for limited comments. Public comments should be respectful and courteous, free from personal attacks and inappropriate language. I respectfully request that you support this proposal and ask that the select board consider implementing a public comment section. Thank you.
Okay, advisory board?
Tom Scollins, Advisory Board. We're certainly for the spirit of the article, but we were told of its dubious legality. We voted not to support this article.
Okay, and just to follow up on that a little bit, this is another one of the articles of dubious legality, only in so much as town meeting cannot compel the selectmen to take any particular action. First, front microphone.
Diane Jordan, Bancroft Street. I don't understand the reason for the dubious legality, although Attorney Galvin did try to explain it based on a Supreme Court decision, but it's really not the point. I think everybody who's been here for the 3 nights of town meeting has seen where communication is a huge fail in this town between the people and the officials. I've worked hard to bring communication to my board and to, kind of in general, it's been one of the things that I talk about a lot. And even though I don't necessarily agree with everything that other boards or officials do, I'm still always communicating respectfully. I think it's very important that the select board have a public comment period, and I think it would be very wise of the select board to put a lot of thought into these citizens' petitions and the whole temperature, you know, of town meeting over the 3 nights that we've seen. Thank you.
Thank you. I believe it's to you, and then we'll go to the left. Yes.
Katie Gensheimer, Tupelo Road. The advisory board said you were told that about the dubious whatchamacallit. So who exactly told you that? Was that the attorney behind you?
Tom?
Who influenced that vote? Yeah. Again, I said this the other night, but I feel like an attorney should know better than to be leading people, especially on a vote that concerns community voices. Thank you.
Folks, this is a matter that the select board can decide. If they want to have public comment, they can have public comment. If they don't want to have public comment, they don't have to have public comment. My point is, town meeting cannot direct the selectmen to have public comment. The select board has to come to that conclusion on their own. And that's just the way it works.
Martin Cleary, Ellis Avenue, Wrexham. I stand here very proudly to be a citizen of Marshfield, and I very much respect the town meetings. And I has been here 3 nights waiting for these particular articles with quite a number of keen interest. This really fascinates me. Here you have a speaker that wants to bring up a motion to identify herself or himself to give you an idea about how we can get this done and do it very respectably by doing it this way. Please give her the respect of letting her do that and make a vote on this tonight. Thank you.
Okay. Right microphone.
So this is a point of order.
Okay.
So I believe that you are misleading town meeting here, and that is a point of order. Now, I just handed you an email that was sent to me by another lawyer who says that the case that our lawyer is using to say that we can't, town meeting can't direct the selectmen, does not say that at all. So I think that until case law has decided this somewhere in the SJC, you should stop saying that to town meeting.
Mr. Lynch, I'd like to know the name of the lawyer that gave you the opinion so that I could respectfully have a conversation with that lawyer, and perhaps they could convince me that there is something wrong in my rationale. If you think that there is a discussion to be had, as I indicated with Ms. Jordan the other night, I'm more than happy to have that conversation.
He doesn't have to convince you, Bob, because the SJC hasn't ruled on this. This is just your opinion. And you know what? And secondly, when you get up and speak about articles that you are in favor of, you shouldn't be speaking as the town lawyer. Your job here is to make rulings on law that you think are rulings of law, not that you're in favor of an article, let's vote it.
Mr. Lynch, in addition to being town council, I'm a resident, and I do vote on articles. I raise my hand so everybody can see how I vote. I'm allowed to vote on articles, and I gave my opinion on one article, and it was a very brief opinion on that article. And I'm not ashamed that I supported that article. That's how I felt. I felt it was in the best interest of the town.
So you took your lawyer hat off. So that's a conflict of interest, Bob. One or the other.
You can wait until he finishes his statement.
With respect, Mr. Lynch, it's not a conflict of interest for me to vote because I'm also a resident. I have the right to vote. I don't give up my right to vote from him here, nor is my advice tainted in any way, shape, or form how I feel. I vote the way I believe it is factually presented and legally presented, and I have done that for 30 years.
Well, I don't think that's fair that you're the town council and then deciding you want to vote for something, so telling people that they should vote for it.
You're out of line on that one. Ms. Keith.
Pam Keith, Smoke Hill Ridge. I do have to say, if it if it is state law, which I can't even remember exactly where it's written, but I do know that chairmen of boards have the right to, allow comment or not. So technically, maybe by law, Mr. Galvin is right that we cannot direct the selectmen in this particular instance because there already is a law. But I would like to state that he has repeatedly in other town meetings, and this one too, stated that we cannot direct the selectmen through town meeting, which completely contradicts the town charter, number one, but also the case that he's using, if anybody was to read it, it hinges on the fact that town meeting did direct the selectmen to create a use for a certain parcel of land. At no point in that case, the court had to decide whether that land was then set aside for a certain use, and then there are laws that govern that. You cannot direct selectmen well, I just want to clarify, Attorney Galvin is misleading town meeting when he says we cannot direct.
But this is beyond the scope of the article. The article is about
Then,
creating.
I mean, obviously, we should vote. You can vote in favor, and even if it is not legal, it gives the will of town meeting, which is, a technical term that we use. So, thank you.
Jacqueline Mason, 1415 Ocean Street. I would like to know why the people cannot direct the selectmen, but the attorney can direct the people.
Do you want me to?
There are 3 branches of town government, there are 3 branches of state government, there are 3 branches of federal government. This is the legislative branch of local government. The selectmen are the executive branch. In certain circumstances, the Board of Public Works is the executive branch of town government. In other circumstances, the Board of Health is an executive branch of town government. Town council is the judicial branch of town government. And it is my job to apply the law as I know it and give you my opinion. You can accept it or reject it. And what I told you tonight is the select board can decide to include this or not include it. I didn't say it was illegal. What I said was improper and is a violation of the separation of powers, is that the legislative body of the town compel the selectmen to take any certain action. Town meeting can always authorize the Board of Selectmen to do something, but it cannot compel. And I'll give you a concrete example. The Select Board is the earth removal permit granting authority under our bylaws. But the town meeting can't tell the Select Board to grant or deny an earth removal permit. It's up to them to decide. And it's the same principle here. Town meeting can authorize them to have it. They don't even need to, because the chairman has always had the authority to include this if 2 selectmen agree. I've never said that they can't do it. I've just said that this body cannot tell the selectmen how to decide this issue. And that's what I've decided.
So the selectmen in place right now could choose to listen to the people that they're voted in by in meetings, but they choose not to?
So the answer is yes.
Great,
okay?
Thank you so much.
And I'll also say, in some communities, it works fine. In other communities, it doesn't work well. And, there are numerous ways that people reach out to the select board currently here in town. And one of the more recent ways, it appears to be on social media. But the selectmen have offices, the selectmen have emails. I think all 3 selectmen take phone calls. All 3 selectmen, to my knowledge, have office hours and make appointments with people. They're happy to hear from you if you're upset about an article or something that's happened in town. But people...
I'm actually still waiting for emails, honestly. So that's
No, please.
Thank you.
So
They might
there-
have all those resources, but they don't use them.
This is not the way we have discussion at town meeting. Yelling from the audience is not acceptable.
All right, so there are avenues to speak to the select board. If you're not happy with the way they respond to you, I certainly think you're telling them that tonight.
Left microphone.
Greg Kai, 59 Canal Street. I wore this shirt tonight in honor of the last night of town meeting, so I hope,
Thank you.
I hope it is the town meeting. A question in my opinion. What was the name of the citizen presenter and address.
I'm so sorry. Trish Kelly, 108 Plantingfield Road.
I'm in favor of the article. I think it can, the school committee does it. I certainly understand the select board's right to choose. And like you just said, that there are other means to do that, but it would be a nice thing to have a limited citizens in their agenda. Thank you.
Okay. Right microphone.
Hi, Karen Powers, 88 Plantain Fields Road. I just have a question, in part of my ignorance, but Trish Kelly mentioned that there's other towns that allow public comment. Is it just the way our laws are written in Marshfield that it's not allowed?
No, there's no law that says we can't have it. It's just what the board accepts.
Right, so I guess that's my question. So other towns are run differently? It's just the way our laws are written here? Is that I'm just trying to understand.
It's not a law. It's just that the custom of the selectmen.
Oh,
Yeah, it's not a law that they can't have it. It's the custom of the selectmen that they don't have it.
Oh, okay. Thank you for the clarification.
Pam Pristis, 60 Central Street. The other night, once Diane presented her article and we heard all about the dubious legality, I sent the articles, I sent the town charter, I sent a lot of information to 3 lawyers who have been practicing law in Massachusetts for over 35 years. One of them I was married to for 22 years, and they all said that they should follow town vote. And so this whole, why are we here if they get the ultimate say? We always know how they're going to vote. And they don't listen to the residents, they listen to what they're told, or I don't know how it works, I'm not going to pretend to know, but why would we are voting for them to represent us and nobody wants to hear from us? So one lawyer, our town council, decides it's dubious legality when I spoke to 3 who've been practicing law even longer, and they all of them agreed that town vote should be the ultimate authority, and they were surprised that our select board doesn't want to hear from us. So that's it. Thank you.
Okay. I will say one thing on that. I don't think anybody said the select board did not want to hear from you. What it said is the selectmen are not compelled to take the direction of town meeting. So there's a difference there.
Bernie Dupuy, Weathervane Lane. I think the purpose of any public meeting should be for public input, whether it's a town meeting, select boards meeting, zoning board, whatever. Most of the other boards in town do offer that opportunity for the residents to be heard. Now you say, well, you can call them, you can do this, you can do that. There are several ways perhaps of reaching out, but I think when an issue comes up of importance, as things tonight on agenda, people come to these meetings for the purpose of discussion and making opinions noted and heard. Why the selectmen would want to ignore that goes beyond me. Quite honestly, it makes me wonder if I'm still living in the USA. I think... Please.
Hey, Bill.
I think I certainly encourage this article. I support it, and whether there's a quasi-legal vote for it or not, it doesn't matter to me. What seems ironic to me is they're voted into office for 3 years. There is a way of making your voice heard, and that's an election day. Okay? And I think we shouldn't have to wait 3 years to be heard by the selectmen. Thank you.
Okay.
William Finn, 96 Dog Lane. If we change this from an article to a citizen's petition, does that resolve the question?
This is a citizen's petition. It is a citizen's petition article. If you were thinking that you could change it to a resolution, which if we have a resolution, and a resolution is something that is in writing, if it's 10 words or less, I can actually just read it from here. If it's 50 words,
but if we
then
did
I could read that resolution, and the selectmen are obligated within 30 days to to at least put the matter on the agenda. They don't necessarily have to adjudicate on it, but they have to at least have it on an agenda.
But that could resolve the issue that we're dealing with right now. if it was
We're too far along the road with this one. That could have happened earlier, yes. But it would have been, it's still, still people want to talk about the article at hand. If you did a resolution, there'd be no discussion. So that's the trade-off. I have two more people speaking, and I will do it after these two people.
Bill Ledoux from 12 Mainsail Drive. You just prefaced what I was going to speak with respect to an amendment. I'd like to propose an amendment of 7 words. Can I do that?
Can you amend a citizen's petition? You can't amend a citizen's petition because it's not a town article. It's a citizen's article. Those can't be amended.
You probably would have liked it. It's constructive and it might solve your problem.
That's not what we do. We don't.
Then my comment would be then, if I understood you properly, the town board can authorize the selectmen to do something. They can be authorized. They can do it or not do it. Is that correct?
Well, they can already do it. Yes, that would be the correct thing of giving them an authorization, but they're already authorized to do that if they chose to do so.
So we could authorize, the town meeting could authorize the selectmen to allow.
I don't know the town meeting needs to do that. I believe that the selectmen already are authorized to do that because it's a conduct of their board.
Okay.
You're referring to the conduct of the board, not something they need an authorization for. And last speaker.
Martine Anderson, Weathervane Lane. Town council explained, I believe, that there are 3 branches of government. Part of the problem in Washington, D.C. is one branch is having a hard time talking to another branch. And I would say sometimes the comments that have been made from this floor have been less than respectful to some of the people that you are not happy with. And I do know that it would be a good thing for people to be able to communicate, but I'm not so sure that a board wants a whole, like 300 people to show up and try and impress them with their opinion. So I think that it would be a good thing if the Board of Selectmen were able to allow a certain amount of time for public comment. But I'm not so sure that it would be anything that you could compel them to do, but I would agree that it would not be a bad thing. And I think they have recently, they have online something that you can access and bring up a subject to them that you might be interested in. So I think that the petitioner has done a great job, and I appreciate her bringing it to the board, to the town meeting.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to go to a vote. This is a majority vote. All those in favor of Article 19, please raise your hand. All those opposed? I declare that Article 19 passes. Okay, we are done with our business for the town meeting warrant for April of 2024. I will accept a motion to dismiss the meeting. All those in favor? Aye.